Welcome to the Listen to This Bull live show, the show where Remington and I talk about bullshit in the insurance world. Hi, Remington.
Hey, what's going on, Matt? That's what we're here for. We're here to discuss some things, some issues that have come up, issues, matters, events, you name it, Matt.
All that kind of shit. And in fact, we want the audience involved. If you are watching this, then you need to be participating because there's really no show without the live audience giving us some commentary. So we want to hear from you. If you have questions, if you've come across some bullshit you want to talk about, that'd be great. I do have some bad news. Our guest tonight, Galen Hare, apparently is too good for us and had to cancel because he's busy doing actual work. Right? I mean, that's just crap. Who really wants to work more than be on this show?
You know, that doesn't sound fun to me. Gotta
No.
tell you, you know. No. We'll have him on again at some other time down the road for sure.
I mean, maybe we'll let him on again.
Maybe.
I don't want to guarantee it just in case.
I'm a sorry letter sent to you, Matt, and then
Maybe.
I
I better play this disclaimer since I'm saying all this shit.
Yeah. Wow, is that part of the disclaimer now?
Yeah. No, really. We really ought to have that sound be part of our sound.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm drinking the have you ever heard of a BJ's restaurant? Is there BJ's in Atlanta?
Yes, a good bit.
All right, so this is a chain restaurant, but they make their own beer. This is a Jeremiah Red that they make. It's like a Killian's. It's actually pretty decent. I enjoy this beer. One of the employees of Coastal tends to bring me different varieties of beer. Real nice guy, super nice guy. I really need to reciprocate that for him at some point. Anyway, cheers.
Cheers. I think you should get a beer sponsor on here. You know,
somebody. That would just make sense.
But that would limit you from trying different beers. So hey, every rose has its thorn.
I did have a troll at one time say about the show that the show would be better if I would actually just get down to business and stop worrying about the beer that I'm drinking and doing all these things. So I called him a cunt.
Hey, you can't make everybody happy, Matt. Okay.
Yeah. That didn't even make my wife happy.
Hey, we are going to have a little guest on though. And although it wasn't the first attorney, it's another attorney. And that's Pate wants to join us and have a little combo.
Is that who's texting me right now?
That's who's texting us right now. He
wants Did you just send him a thing? Did you send him an invite? Are you even able to on your end?
You're better at that than me.
All right, I don't even know if you're able to. All right, I'll send it to him real quick.
I'll leave that up to you, Matt.
I haven't talked to Pate in a while.
Good to get him on here, especially with the things that have occurred in Southwest Florida. I think some insight on everything that's going on, whether you're a contractor, public adjuster, or an attorney. More information we all know, the better we're going to be at our jobs. And I believe that sincerely. You getting that invite ready?
All right. It has been sent over to him. If anybody in the audience that's watching this now has anything they want to talk about, some recent bullshit they've discovered, I can tell you I've come across a few too many times lately, some surplus lines residential policies in Florida, and a lot of them that have anti-public adjuster clauses that say that you agree by purchasing this policy that it is a surplus lines policy. It is not regulated by the state, and that you also agree not to hire a public adjuster to represent you on the claim. Just gut reaction, Remington. Is it constitutional?
I don't think it's constitutional. I don't. But again, I want to, as a disclaimer, this is for an attorney who specializes in constitutional issues. I know this has been challenged in other states and it was deemed unconstitutional. These surplus line, to me, is just common sense wise. It is, to me, a violation of the fair marketplace for somebody to not be able to hire a agent or representative to help represent them on an insurance claim. It just doesn't sit well for me. And and this will be challenged. This will go to the Supreme Court of Georgia. Not Georgia, excuse me. Georgia probably, but Florida at some point, and it will be ruled upon. And I would be absolutely shocked if they agree that provision is enforceable to a policyholder, not to have a PA. But for the time being, it hasn't been challenged, to my knowledge, in Florida to the extent of that level.
Well, think about this. And here's the real kicker, and the reason I don't think it's been challenged yet. And I didn't really even think about this until someone that I'm friends with had this issue and reached out to me for some advice. Or might even be someone I'm consulting with. Either way, they reached out to me and they said, is there anything that I can do? And I said, well, it's a surplus lines. If they don't take that client on, and actually what happened is the client found out that was in there and ended up rescinding their contract with this public adjuster. Actually, I remember who it was. It is just a friend of mine. And because they lost their contract, they did have damages, right? So could the public adjuster directly sue for that, since their damage was basically an interference with their contract? What would it be?
I don't think, and again, this is off the hip here, I don't think necessarily they would have to sue for damages against the carrier. However, they could do some type of TRO or some type of an injunction for the state.
We all know what TRO stands for. Everybody knows that terminology.
Or some, like I said, some type of injunction for the courts to rule that it's not enforceable. For instance, here's a classic example. Last year, July 1st, 2021, new legislation came out. A lot of that legislation was regulating and kind of handcuffing what contractors in the state of Florida can and cannot do. One of the Florida's in-house counsels filed some type of TRO or injunction to say that they can door knock, they can hang door knockers and all this other. And they agreed that the legislation was not to be enforceable until, that was the dust settled, so to speak. Do you remember that, Matt?
I do. That was House Bill 76 that they were fighting against. And it was, those portions of it either were deemed to be unconstitutional, or at least it's still going through the process. And in the meantime, it can't be enforced.
Right.
I don't know if it actually came out the other end. I honestly don't remember that. But here's the real kicker here. As a public adjuster, we're supposed to look out for the best interest of the policyholder at all times, against our own interests, against the interests of anybody else. The policyholder alone. If it's in the best interest of the policyholder to hire a public adjuster, great. But is it in the best interest of the policyholder to have to fight their insurance company to agree that there is a public adjuster representing them? Are we acting against our own licensure by forcing the issue?
Here's one thing that these clauses are saying to overcome some of the other state rulings. And it's at the very beginning. Right here, I have one right now that I have pulled up, right, because it's a policy I have from a client. And it states the very beginning is in consideration for the premium paid. The other states that challenged this, it didn't have that language because the carrier was charging the same exact premium to the policyholder for if they did have this endorsement,
consideration for
not having this endorsement. What they're trying to say is that the policyholder is paying less of a premium to have this endorsement into the policy. And so that's why they're trying to skate through the, quote unquote, unenforceable, unconstitutional. In my opinion.
These policies, these surplus lines, they're not regulated anyway. They don't have to be approved by the state. So does that mean that they have to apply those same rules?
Well,
it's a muddy mess on this.
It is a muddy mess, but unconstitutional or not, we're talking constitutional, Florida Constitution or the United States. It should be, a 50 state type deal on this type of stuff. As we all know, though, law, as soon as you cross the state border, you're in a whole different country, from Georgia to Florida, from Florida to Alabama. So, and for instance, in Alabama, as we all know, there's not even allowed to be public adjusters, but for them to throw this provision endorsement into the policy, it just doesn't sit with me right at all.
I mean, the state didn't approve these things, so keep that in mind, because these policies aren't given to the state for approval. The surplus lines are just automatically able to be sold. They got special rules. But they still have to, as far as I understand, they still have to abide by the same rules and regulations that exist for insurance policies in general. They just don't have to get approved by the state. So they claim to not be regulated, but I don't know. I don't know if that's really the case. There might have to be someone that really digs into this kind of thing on the law side to find out what's really the case. Do you think this is, there's a comment from someone named Colucci. Is this Colucci? Is this the attorney Colucci?
I don't think it is, because they wouldn't be asking the question. Probably. Yeah. Just saying.
The question is, what is the time limit to recover depreciation and complete repairs on a fire loss? That's different for every state.
And every policy.
Well, some states might regulate a certain way, but in other states, it would be based on the policy. Georgia, for example, the policy might say that you have 180 days to complete repairs on any loss. Some policies say that you must make the repairs within the least amount of time that is reasonably necessary to make the repairs. Other policies might say the suit limitation period, and other ones might not have any kind of a cutoff at all, except the recovery of the depreciation might have a cutoff at a certain point. Here's a good question to go along with this. Allstate has a policy that says you have 180 days from the date of loss to make repairs. But you have 1 year from the date of loss to file a claim on hail. What if you don't discover the hail damage until month 9? It's more than 180 days after the date of loss. Does that mean that you can't recover depreciation at all?
I'm going to argue that it's 180 days from when they strike that ACV check.
I think most courts would probably agree, but it isn't written that way. So if you were just going to look at it that way or just read it in plain language, what are you going to do?
But it makes it an impossibility for the policyholder to actually fulfill their conditions under the policy if they're not making the ACV check, right? So that's the argument. It's an impossibility for that policyholder to make the proper repairs without the ACV check. I think that clock starts ticking as soon as the ACV check is issued.
I'm so glad you said that, because I got a follow-up. What if it's seepage that has a hidden damage clause and the date of loss is unknowable and you have a 2 year from date of loss suit limitation period? When does the date of loss actually start?
That's going to be the date of discovery on seepage claims.
Sure. Okay. So the date of loss is the date of discovery. So date of discovery is a real thing. It does exist.
I believe on seepage claims it would. Hey, let's not even say seepage. Let's just say somebody goes out of town for a month and goes to Italy and comes back and there's a bunch of water. They don't know what the date of loss is, right? Mm-hmm. There's always an exception to the rule.
Love the exceptions. Austin Royce, he's one of the RoofCon salespeople, so this is a shameless plug. Well done, Austin. But he said, hopefully you'll be at RoofCon. I will be at RoofCon. I don't have a booth. They were expensive. I'm going to be wandering around. You'll see my hat wandering around. You can say hi to me. We'll high five. And we'll be like, yeah, you're awesome. And then you can be like, yeah, you're awesome too. And we'll be like, we're both awesome. And then we can part and go on our way. And that'll be great.
Hey, I want to piggyback off of something else. If that it came into my mind, some policies say you have to just put the carrier on notice that you're going to seek RCV benefits within a time.
That same Allstate policy used to say, and we got them on this so many times, and there's plenty of policies like that. You're absolutely right. it might say you must notify us within 180 days of your intent to repair, not actually make the repairs in 180 days. That's why a lot of public adjusters in their letter of rep put in there that the policyholder has the intent to repair. All right, we got Pate Smith in the wings. Should we pull him on?
Let's bring Pate on.
Mr.
Boys.
Pate. Dude.
What's up, Pate?
Man, I have missed you guys. This is the least busiest day afternoon I've had in about 4 months. So this is amazing.
Nice seeing you, man. Hey,
Yeah,
I miss you too, Pate.
Dude, actually, last time I had a cocktail with you guys was at a bar in Indianapolis the day that I found out I passed the bar.
That was a fun night.
And then before that, before that was when the first Pubs and Policies we did together. So
that was the only real Pubs and Policies episode ever. So yeah,
I feel like we should do that again. Like twice a year we do a Pubs and Policies. It has to be the original Three Musketeers, and we just for 90 minutes or 3 hours or 18 appetizers, whatever it is we had, just keep banging each other with like random scenarios and questions.
I mean, that's rabbit holes.
No, absolutely. It's a lot better in person.
Hey, I got one I want to hit you boys with. So,
all right,
this was okay. Remington, this is an issue that stems from, I guess both your home state, Georgia. Okay, so imagine there's an umpire. Both sides have, there's an impasse. Both sides have submitted all their information, and the umpire doesn't do anything for over a year. What would you do?
Before we answer that, here's a follow-up question to it. How often does an umpire get selected without the umpire approving that selection?
That's a whole nother issue, Matt.
Yeah.
This umpire didn't say, "Yeah, I'll be the umpire." He just got named. I mean,
it's like
that
call him up.
Leads to these kinds of problems.
How many times do you think umpires have been dead and people didn't know it? I mean, seriously, that's a real. I mean, we all are kind of in this industry, and there's many people have said, "quote unquote," appraisal's broken. But if you want to point to an issue inside appraisal, like your boy Steve could be named as an umpire. Like I could be named as an umpire and not know I'm an umpire right now.
Dude, I swear, I found out I was named as an umpire like 8 months ago, and the two appraisers just sent me their stuff. And I was like, wait, whoa, what's going on here? And I was like, guys, I don't agree to this. I don't consent to me being an umpire. And I just backpedaled out of that. But I was like, what the heck?
At that point, though, if they already are getting you involved, then they already need an umpire. And if you say no, now they have to, after there's already a disagreement, come up with who the umpire is, which would drag out dramatically and probably end up being decided by a court. I've never been named as an umpire. I've always wanted to do an umpire job. I get named randomly as an appraiser all the time without anybody notifying me or asking me if that's okay.
I am fearful of potential exposure at my current position. So I would not, I've been asked to do it, and I've been put on emails with like 15 people. It's like, please say you're not interested. And I always say I'm not interested. I would love to do it, and maybe in my next career, that's something I look at doing. But yeah, I would be fearful of exposure, and then down the road, what a creative defense attorney might be able to somehow put together from whatever might come of that.
There you go. Pate, to answer your question, though, I would do this, especially if the two appraisers are on the same side of saying, we need the umpire to come with a decision. We're frustrated. We're losing our patience. I would have some type of memo to the umpire from the two appraisers and say, you have 14 days to issue the award. If not, we're picking another umpire. So I would just give them that ultimatum, man. And if not, I mean, it's time to move on after a year. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a commercial claim, and that's basically what's happening. Is the two attorneys are like, "Hey, brother, this is everybody's ready. to get this thing done. Can you go ahead and we were arguing over a very, very small portion of the claim, or they were arguing over a very small portion of the claim at that point. And it was just interesting. And I was like, a couple of Georgia guys, see what they think on this. But yeah, so Hurricane Ian, I know both of you boys are down there crushing it, or preparing to. Matt, I saw you down there.
I mean, I was out there for research purposes for NCI. We put cameras all over the place. We're trying to, I go out there a lot of times just to prove that some of the bullshit that's out there is wrong. So we've got some good videos and showing that, wind damage occurs in the field before the eaves and the rakes and the ridges, especially around chimneys and other obstructions. And in Florida, since all of the perimeter is well sealed down.
Hey, guys, there's an 11 point walking about 20 yards from me right now.
Prove it.
As soon as he crosses this little thing, I will turn the camera around. But sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you. That was crazy.
That's awesome. I got a question here about interesting things. I'm going to answer this real quick. What is a line drawn for full approval on 10 square roof with 27 missing shingles covered? They want to repair. I got it full approved by line of sight, but how much needs to be damaged for full approval? You guys mind if I grab this one?
Go for it.
It's a very simple answer. It isn't a certain amount. It's when it becomes more costly to repair than to replace. Whatever that is, whenever that is, it might be one shingle. If it's more costly to repair than replace. Now, keep in mind, they always owe for a proper repair. So if it is going to be a repair, it has to be done properly. And how much will that actually cost? What is the true cost of that?
Matt, why did you stress proper repair? Because that's another niche point. Go ahead into that.
Remington says this all the time. Go ahead, Remington. He gets so frustrated. Do they owe for proper repairs only when they want to, or when?
No, they always owe for proper repairs.
Because
they always want to, with the engine. I don't care if it's the desk adjuster or the engineer they hired, they're cutting corners. And it's not a proper repair. I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of the files that Peyton and I see, they're cutting corners and not wanting to do these rightful repairs. And these are the same people that won't even attempt a repair. They're just saying on paper that this is the way to do it without trying to do it, when we all know it's not the right way to do it.
So here's a question. I got two questions off of this. Remington, you're a Florida attorney, so we have this fun little post 2007 building code law in effect now on roof surfaces. Give me a time on a membrane style roofing system that has some form of insulation under it, where it's a continuous system and the system has water in it, where repair is proper.
I think that's more of a mat. And you're saying this is to get the water intrusion, the water damage, insulation, get it out somehow without doing a full roof replacement. Is that what you're asking?
So here's my concern, and there's my concern with what's going to happen with how this new fun little law could potentially be played. And I don't know, I'm just asking questions here. You have a continuous system. That system is a singular roofing system, right? We're not talking about shingles. We're talking about a roofing system. Once water gets under it, and let's say it's a corner, right? And maybe you've got pillback, whatever, and you have to cut into the membrane, you have to remove insulation, you have to move ISO, whatever the scenario is. At that point in time, how do you put that back to pre-loss condition by making a repair?
You can't. A lot of times the polyiso is staggered. And if you were to cut directly out and just take a section out and put some in, you would actually create a thermal bridge in that area. Or if you're talking about like a built-up roof or something where the layers are intertwined in certain ways, obviously you wouldn't be able to. So a proper repair would be a replacement of those things as a system because they're laid down in a certain order on purpose.
Would you say, given that thing you just said, and most of the flat roof membrane style losses that will happen let's say a 10-mile range from the high wind speeds at the coast, would you say those systems would, if they experience water intrusion?
I mean, you're talking about moisture that moves underneath these systems. So, when it gets hot and it evaporates, it becomes gaseous. It expands further into these, and you get mold growth and different things. So, the code is very clear on this. If there is water saturation or water, if the layers are soaked, if there's any water saturation in those layers, it has to be completely dried out, and that's not going to be accomplished with venting, not even those cool Venturi vents that exist. Now, if there's any water saturation, if you can just show that there is water, and then you need to know how the layers interwork with each other, there's going to be some systems that might not be an issue, like mob bit systems where they're directly on top of decking or something. And there's a lot of no insulation roofs in Florida.
There are, but in that scenario, would you? Oh, sounds like somebody's crying at my neighbor's house. In that scenario, I am hundreds of yards away. In that scenario, you would say that if someone, contractor, an insured, a property manager, ran into that scenario, it'd be a good time to bring in a policyholder advocate like one of you guys, right?
Like a locust?
What's that?
You mean a locust?
Oh my God! Wow, what a shot! I appreciate that you did that. I was, the day that happened, I was standing, waiting to take a ferry from Fort Myers to Sanibel Island. And I don't have the world's best service at that point in time. Service wasn't 100p. And I see this and I'm like, is this from an insurance company? And so then I wasn't sure where it came from. So I get on the boat, I meet an engineer out on Sanibel at a HOA with one of our Florida attorneys, kind of walk through, have a discussion, get back on the boat, get home later that evening to our man camp. And we were talking about it, and I said, so what insurance carrier that came from? And they said, no, that was Florida Financial Services. And I was like, wow, this is next level.
It got worse. Then DeSantis came out and called us predators.
Well, you are
to the governor's office too.
You have a threatening look about you, Matt. It's the beard.
Yeah, I think it's the hat, but that's up for debate.
I also smell like a predator, right? I've got that natural manly pheromone, I think. The women,
I've been trying to get some of that. I looked in the back of some Boy Scout magazines from the 90s and purchased some of those. Does anybody remember the pheromone sprays you could buy in like Boys Life in the back in the 90s?
Yeah.
That and then the hoverboard thing. Remington used to look like a predator, but looks like he's lost about 18 pounds of muscle. So I don't know. I've been hitting him all.
Hey, sometimes the camera might, deceive some people, but no, it's there, Pate, and it's ready.
Dude, Remington in law school was a monster. You were jacked then. I don't know what you were lifting then, but it must have been a lot.
Was it Patronus? They said predators.
What's that?
Maybe it was Patronus. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't DeSantis that said it.
I don't know. Regardless, and no, seriously at all, no political affiliation whatsoever. It's because what he was talking about, and what I think he was trying to say is when you have some of these AOB contractors, especially like MIT companies that go in and they ring up a bill that's $250,000 on a $250,000 house. That's I think, but the problem is that the pendulum swings too fast to the other side, and that's the problem. Without it trying to find that simple medium. So that's the issue, and that's what politicians do. That's what I found out being at the Capitol for 2 months this year.
I sat and did about 20 hours of customer service calls for our Louisiana clients for about 4 months, 20 hours a week for about 4 months. And I mean, these are just people obviously wanting someone to hear them, get an update, want to understand why. I'll tell you, I had some hard nights listening stories about like, men who have done nothing but save their entire life to be able to take care of their family. And, they lose their home. They're living 50 miles away from where their kid goes to school because that's where they can get a house because they're out of ALE. Their carrier won't, pay to put their gutted out house back. And I don't know, like, I think if I was in that position, I mean, I've got kids, right? Like, I mean, what's the difference between me and those guys? It's really, I'll just geographically was different. I would be that exact same spot. And then I hear somebody call, policyholder advocates predators. And I mean, what a horrible, horrible representation of what I've found to be an incredible group of people. I mean, Remington, who, even though he's an Ohio State fan, I mean, what an incredible person, right? And I mean, that's like everybody that I've met, almost in this industry. There's obviously some people that I'm not super fond of, but
are you going to name those people? I feel like this is the medium for you to do that in.
What's that?
Who are you not fond of specifically?
Paul Reed.
Oh,
yeah, he punched one of my kids once. He claimed he was falling because he was elderly, but I watched it happen. So, anybody? No, I'm just kidding. I guess Paul on it. I guess.
Yeah, that was such an unfair statement from that politician. I don't even know which one it was, but that's an unfair statement to capsulize our profession because of a couple bad actors, and it's BS. In my opinion.
It's more than a couple. There's a lot of bad actors, and there are some.
Hey, when you say a couple, let's just say a small percentage.
But he's lumping us together.
50%, whatever. Yeah. I don't care. But it's a couple, and that's
right.
the thing.
And then in the same breath, he says that the insurance company is basically going to take care of you.
I'm going to put this out.
Bad actors there, obviously.
If the insurance companies, let's say, started today, if they started today, taking care of their clients, and there wasn't just an epidemic, we can even say a small epidemic, whatever we want to say, right? Like, I'm sure it's very few people that we have to help in the grand scheme of like the trillion of claims that get filed or whatever. I'm being semi-facetious, but not really. Like, I would quit tomorrow. I would just quit. I'd be like, okay, perfect. They're helping people. On to the next thing I'll do. But the problem is that's not the case. It's like all of our phones ring constantly. And it's not because we're that great at marketing. Matt's marketing revolves around a hat. I mean, that's, his phone rings off the hook. I'm kidding, but in all seriousness, like, it's obviously a problem. Like, I don't get how it's predators. I mean, one could say it's predatory to take in all this money, and then when it comes time to pay, just like, nah, dog, I'm good.
No, it's crap. It's all bullshit. What are you up to these days, Pete?
I was in Florida until this week, minus the weekends. This week I didn't have any adjuster meetings or meetings to go to with their attorneys. Been doing a lot of board calls, a lot of HOA board calls. That's fun. Filling in for people and giving info, etc. My job is really different. I don't know. I'm not really like in the marketing department anymore. I do some marketing, but I kind of do a lot of stuff, and whatever the law firm needs, I make sure I'm there. If it's adjuster meetings, if it's filling in for an attorney, if it's sitting at the top of the
for people.
What's up?
Are you getting coffee for people?
If they need coffee, I'll get coffee. Hey, listen, I'll say this. I don't go to the office often. My schedule doesn't always really allow it. But one time I was in there and the ice machine in one of the break rooms was messed up. I looked in there and fixed the ice machine, and I was like, dude, I'm in here doing calls while just saving us all types of money. James and Zach, let me get a piece of that bonus off that ice machine bill. It's probably like a $300 fix call.
You can't ask James for that kind of money because he'll just look at you like he wants to throat punch you.
Yeah, you don't.
That's just his normal look. He's actually a really soft-hearted guy, but yeah, I mean, he definitely looks pretty tough.
He looks like he wants to murder people.
He does. So what about Remington? How has Ian kicked off for you yet? Really, I'm sure you're getting some action.
What's that from Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, every hour of the day, dealing with stuff, and it's not just, having clients sign up. It's talking to contractors, it's talking to public adjusters. It's, consulting, I guess, if you will, but in a friendly sense. All that's definitely going on all the time. It's going to be nonstop for a while, and hey, we're in this industry, we accept that. So
I think this is a 5-year storm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, everybody's going to be able to, per Florida statute, they have 3 years to file a claim. it's going to be, and then after that, you have 5 years to file suit. So, or at 5 years from the date of loss. So, I mean, you got half a decade, like you said, 5 years.
But you really need to do it now before those companies go insolvent.
There's a strategy as well there. But hey, I'm glad you're the Lane Kiffin of property insurance, man. If one day you're in Tennessee, one day you're in Southern Cal, one day you're an OC for Saban, and one day you're the head coach, brother. So I'm enjoying it, man. And you kind of look like Lane Kiffin too. Has anybody ever
what's that? I look like Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, that's your new nickname, man. You're coined.
I love that. I'm a big Lane Kiffin. If Saban leaves, I would take Lane Kiffin.
There you go. Hey, I have a question. So, Matt, you for NCI, you went down to Southwest Florida and you set up the cameras. Not only the cameras, everybody saw that you visually were in the middle of the eye of the storm, right? And so there a lot of things that no engineers for the carrier have done before, right? But on all these reports that I see, whether it's tile or asphalt shingles, they're saying the only way it's considered wind damage if there's a crease or some type of particular break in the actual tile, and that's the only way that they can relate it to wind damage. So now that I'm going to be deposing these engineers over the same exact storm that you're an eyewitness to, where you saw where maybe some asphalt shingles bonded but didn't crease. So what's the line of questioning you would use for these engineers? I want to know because it's all or nothing for them, and it's got to be a particular way.
Well, I mean, if you read the reports and you read it the way an engineer would actually write it, they say certain things that are very interesting. They'll say, well, that's not consistent with wind damage. And to a layman or to anyone reading that, what that means to us is that's not wind damage. What the engineer is actually saying is that's not what we expected to see. It's a big difference. It's, oh, shit, that's weird. That's really what they're saying. So when you see that in a report, it's not consistent with wind damage, then the simple question is, so are you saying that that couldn't have been caused by wind? Because they can't answer no with that. It definitely can have been caused by wind. So, and that's what they're saying, but they're not being very clear. Even in the blogs for most of these engineering firms, like Hague, for example, is put in the blogs that you should very clearly state, and they're writing this to other engineers should clearly state what the hail did or did not do. And you can put wind in there instead of hail, what the wind did or did not do. And if they're not being very clear on what it did or didn't do, and they're just saying it's not consistent, then they're not being very clear. They might be withholding information. They might be trying to make it obscure on purpose, which could be problematic for an engineer. I know that there is a lot of firms that will write things in such a way to almost invite misinterpretation on purpose. So I would ask them if wind definitely could not have done that. And if they can't say, no, wind would not have done that, then what are they doing?
Yeah.
You know,
Matt,
we've got video.
Matt, hit that answer with tile.
Say again?
So the shingle argument is one thing, and the problem with shingles is obviously the resealing and the laying down.
But they'll lift up, they'll rip off nails as one big sheet. We're calling it sheeting. It's a term that we coined. Holding up my wallet at the same time, we're calling it sheeting. It lifts up in one big sheet and it rips up off nails and then it lays back down. And you won't know as you go up there and you start lifting shingles and find out they're all coming up together.
Yep.
And it might not be creased because it's this giant sheet that would have this giant curl in it as it's bending over instead of a big hard crease. So it's You can see that on tile, you have tiles lifting up and displacing themselves and setting back down and lifting up and setting back down. Every time they lift up, they pull the nails out just slightly, and they're pivoting on that nail. It's a fulcrum. It's pivoting, and the back side of that tile is digging into the underlayment.
Matt, do you remember my argument on how claw hammers work, and that's the same way that tile works?
Exactly.
A tile's a giant claw hammer, and I think we all learned in IRMA, kind of reading various people's reports, and then on IRMA at the very beginning, I think many people were being successful on having tile claims covered by the argument that, hey, this particular tile is lifting X amount of inches, it's greater than 2. We have some fastener issues here. I'm going to be interested to see how the fastener play is played, and what we tend to see and what we don't tend to see, and then how the new law.
I think that most of the tile work that's in Florida is either put down with mortar beds or with foam adhesive. So you don't see a lot of fasteners here. You will come across some, but a lot of times there's no fasteners at all. So if you won't be able to have that same argument, but you will have loosened tiles that displace because they're still kind of interwoven in there. I sat through a insurance carrier education piece about wind damage on tiles. And they showed this video where this stack of tile that was just sitting on top of a roof waiting to be installed got hit with a hurricane, and some of the tiles fell off and broke right there. And they're saying that how could wind do the amount of damage that they're claiming that it does if it barely even moves this stack of tiles? They're heavy as fuck, for one thing. And the way that wind works, it actually will break off and then reattach. So it'll move things up, it'll lift it up, but then throw it back down on top of it. It's almost like the back of a pickup truck. It's going to have places where it goes back in. There's so much bullshit involved in this. Let me say this. If you're going to investigate whether or not the loosened tiles were caused by wind, go around and find out every tile that lifts more than 2 inches and it's got fasteners, put a mark on it. And do that for the windward side and the leeward side. You will find that the windward side has more loosened tiles in certain areas on the windward side and much less on the leeward side. But near the ridge on the leeward side, there will be a lot of loose tiles. And you can actually document that's how wind would affect this. And that's how we know that this was actually caused by wind. It's good evidence. Edge of the roof as well. The edges, the eaves, anywhere where the wind has to change direction. We teach a lot of this in our inspection courses, but it has to make sense. That's all. Make it make sense. Anyway, that kind of shit.
Multiple times I've been in depositions with the engineer, and I say, so you're telling me there's a 0% chance that wind debonded this asphalt shingle, and sometimes they will say yes, 0% chance because it's not creased. And at that point, I feel like I got him. I'm like, because my engineer is saying there's always a probability, while they're saying absolutely not, and I feel like that's going to carry weight. And because Pate will contest to this. When we were deposing an engineer or any type of expert, credibility is number 1 or number 2 that you're going after. And to me, that shoots it,
I'd love to do a lot more expert work if you guys wanted to have me come in for that stuff.
My career after this is I'm going to be a carrier expert.
Yeah. For the carrier?
Yeah, they have to hire me, but I'm going to just put it out there.
I'm sure they'd be happy to. They can't wait.
A what expert?
Carrier.
For defense.
Yeah,
he's
like I'm a building consultant or something. I don't know.
That whole building consultant. Here's a good topic, and maybe we don't have time to really. This is exactly
why I said building consultant.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing.
This is exactly why we need pubs and policies. All right,
right.
Just a couple times a year.
We need like 3 more hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This building consultant idea, you don't have to be a licensed public adjuster. I'll just be a consultant. I'll be a building consultant. You don't be a licensed engineer. You just be a building consultant. You still are acting in those capacities. without a license, how are building consultants and just claim consultants not being sued? I don't get it.
I'm in it with you. Like, what is this? It's, you just get to pick. I'm a claims consultant for what? Interpreting the policy. Well, you have attorney, you have a public adjuster, you have a IA, right? Like,
Are you giving advice about that policy to the policyholder? That requires a lot.
I mean, what are you consulting about? If it's not like, this is the correct font size, I feel like you're not in the right, you don't have the right licensure. I could be wrong though. I don't make the rules.
Comic Sans is definitely out. No Comic Sans whatsoever. Outside of that.
When I was a PA, I was on a loft in Omaha, and it was with an carrier engineer that I knew relatively well, and he and I got along really great. And it was I, and a building consultant from the carrier, and so he's out there, and the engineer and I this is on a hail loss on EPDM on like a relatively large, like, shopping center, like gymnastics thing with a, whatever they are, strip mall, but kind of a little bit bigger. And building consultant's doing his thing, and me and the engineer end up running into him, and he asks us a question, and I let the engineer, I mean, this is going great, and I let the engineer kind of talk to him. He's like, well, I'm not seeing this at all. I'm not seeing any hail damage. The engineer's like, bro, this was like 3.75 inch hail. This is damaged, and he's like, I've been working hail since 1980 whatever, and I've never seen hail puncture an EPDM roof. And I just thought to myself,
are you serious?
Yeah, that's what he said. And then I fired off to him. I was like, dude, I've been fishing since I was 8 years old, and I've never caught a marlin.
That means they don't exist, obviously.
And literally the engineer busted out laughing. And I mean, that's my problem with the whole people with that mindset. But like, that guy, there wasn't even an adjuster out there. The building consultant was preparing an estimate for the adjuster. The adjuster probably never goes out. The engineer agreed with me. He said, hell, and yeah, I mean, it's a problem.
Hey, I learned something the other day that I think you gentlemen might be interested in. I learned this yesterday, actually. Engineers, when they write their reports, a lot of times they don't put the cited works in their reports themselves. An admin for their company does that.
I don't have a problem with that.
So it's just a boilerplate with the sites already in, is what you're saying.
I mean, they're not naming a specific page or specific things that they're utilizing to come up with their opinions. They're just putting these cited works in there this is the knowledge that I've had, this base of knowledge for how I came up with these opinions. And they're not even putting it in the report themselves. It's an admin. I find that very interesting. I don't know if that can make a difference for you guys during depositions, but it seems interesting.
It would be if they hadn't reviewed the report.
Doing it.
No, that's interesting. What they're doing is during the ordinary class of, let's just throwing, I'm not saying Hague does this, but I'm just throwing Hague out there, that they teach these materials during this class to every single engineer. And so therefore they can reference to it. That's kind of what they're doing. Sure.
I wasn't naming a specific engineer. I was basically saying all of them, at least the larger firms that would have admins.
And so again,
this is like a common practice. It's kind of crazy. If you're a standalone engineer, obviously you're doing the whole thing for yourself. So maybe that doesn't encompass all of them, but that's crazy. If you're going to stamp this document and say that you're using these works for your reference material and you're not specifically referencing them and they're just in general, it's probably being done by an admin. Is that appropriate? I don't even know if that really is or not, but it could be an inappropriate thing.
It's not a death blow, but it might be something to wiggle into occasionally.
Right? Yeah. Not a silver bullet for sure. Something I learned, though. I learned a lot yesterday. We did a dealing with engineers class at National Claims Institute, and we had Chad Williams, who wrote the National Academy of Forensic Engineers assessment on how to determine the repairability of an asphalt shingle.
Wow.
He sat in the class and gave I wrote so many notes. I love classes when I learn more than the students do.
I think a lot of times to learn enough, you have to have a base of knowledge deep enough to where it actually kind of hits.
That's true. That's why when you teach, you actually learn a shit ton, because you bring yourself back to the point where you have to understand why on things. And so by understanding why, so you can teach the why, you really start to understand things at a much better level. Makes you think, if I ever got back into doing this stuff, what would I do?
If you ever, you mean when you
I have
ever?
no intention to, but man, so much
Oh
knowledge.
my God, Matt, are you saying you're not going to ever go back into the?
Look, I
the
can
PA
never say
game?
never, but I really have no intention to. I really do enjoy the teaching part of this. It's fun.
I think I'll do it one day. Like I'll retire from this, and then I'll do it again. Maybe just for fun. But like a lot of people talk trash, and
Taking
I
a
just
claim or two to keeping myself up to date.
I want to do
That's
it
it.
just to prove that Daddy's still got it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Sometimes you still got to get on the basketball court, hoop it up. The ankles may ache for about a month after that, but you got to prove that you still got it. I can feel like I can still get out there and solicit an HOA with the best of them. Yeah, I don't just because I don't get to flex some muscles doesn't mean it's not there. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
I'm not grilling a steak tonight, but doesn't mean I can't do an incredible one.
Don't let Pate fool you. When we retire, we're starting our own umpire, nationwide umpire corporation. All right.
And building consulting.
And building consultant for insurance companies only corporation. So that's what's going on.
If you want to prove that you were really fair to your insureds, Huggins Smith, building consultants.
Hire us. Chubb will be our number one client, and then everybody else will just follow suit. So
you guys better hire me for expert work.
If a plaintiff's attorney tries to say that Huggins Smith Building Consulting is, I don't know, biased towards the carrier, look at our past. Our past is littered, right? We've got to be the. I mean, we can't pass the challenge
like this one. I mean, they could watch any of these episodes.
Yeah, I'm pro fairness of the policyholder.
Me too.
Yeah.
Allstate, shout at your boy.
Holler at us for sure.
Pate's ready to get there finally. He's got a number. You should reach out to him, Allstate.
If Allstate would just agree to pay all their claims fairly for 2 years, I would quit tomorrow.
They might go insolvent.
No, they're loaded, bro.
Yeah.
Better hands.
What makes something insolvent?
I mean, they would have to lose all their money.
Vote on it, I think that might be really it. There's really
if you're an
no
insurance company,
real
wouldn't you
rule.
just increase your premiums?
You just say we're insolvent and you go through that process.
I wish the IRS worked that way.
You can file bankruptcy whether you're really truly bankrupt or not, right? What are the rules on these things?
Ribbington, do you remember anything from bankruptcy from law school?
No.
I just realized I only remember 2 cases. International Shoe and, oh my God, the napkin case.
Was International Shoe
Plessy
case? I thought that was Civil Pro.
International Shoe is sufficient minimum contacts for diversity of a corporation.
Yeah, so it was Civ Pro.
Did we have Civ Pro together?
Dude, yes. I remember a question you asked, and the professor said, I'm going to roll myself up into this carpet. Or he said some example, like somebody asked about International Shoe or something else, where he was like, look, in law school, we asked the professor this question, and the dean found him behind his desk, rolled up in a carpet. And because he was so freaked out about the question, and all, I was like, what? Like these people get in the weeds, man, big time. I don't know if you remember that, Pate, but
I do. I do not. I remember being like, mostly like, I hope I have all my reading done, and I hope I don't get called on. And thank God my cell phone's charged all the way.
that was before iPhones, man. That was back in the day.
Your boy was running a like Android 1, I think. Yeah, I wasn't with the iPhone at that time. I had to plug my phone into the car to get music, and I only had like 25 songs on my phone.
Oh man, the caveman days.
That's how long Remington and I go back. I didn't even know what an insurance claim was then.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about that in law school, did they?
Hell no, they don't talk about it. No, anything applicable today. I mean, how's there not an entire class on DocuSign at law school? Like,
that's a good question. It's universal.
DocuSign, like, do something about this. I don't need to know Plessy v. Ferguson. I need to know how to edit a document on DocuSign. That's what, I mean, am I wrong for that?
Yes.
It's true. It's practical use.
I mean, I don't think you should pay what you pay to go to law school for that class.
I'm telling you, they don't do a lot of, and I tell everybody this that's even about to go to law school, is they want to make sure that you want it, and they put you through the ringer and making sure that, and same with the bar exam. They want to make sure that that's what you want, and you have to go through the ringer, man.
People don't believe me when I told them, because I did Hurricane Laura during the bar exam. And I took 70 days away from like travel, basically, minus I did a trip with MK to Costa Rica for 4 days to kind of just break things up, because I'd been going in a minute. But I would wake up every day at about 3-something, 4-something in the morning, and I would get like 100 multiple choice in. And then I would go to the gym, I'd work out, and while I was working out, I would listen to various bar exam lectures on topics that I sucked at, which was like all the topics. And then I would work a full day. Then at 4 o'clock, I would stop, and I'd do 100 more multiple choice questions, and then I would do whatever bar exam workbook lecture stuff I had that day. And then I would, towards the end, I started to try to do all that plus an additional 50 multiple choice. I got a little app on my phone that would just hammer multiple choice, and that was the only way I was ever able to do it. I would just have this mindset of sneak in. What extra can I sneak in today? What extra can I sneak in today? Because I took like a decade off, and I was, that was hell.
Yeah, no, it is. It's not, anybody who tells you that's pleasant is outside their minds. It's miserable.
What surprised me the most is when I found out that new attorneys get paid like $40,000 a year.
Yeah,
that blows my mind.
Still on the come up, baby.
Yep.
Yeah. Still paying off your student loans, gentlemen?
I am not. I actually paid mine and Mary Catherine's debts off when I was a PA after I got paid on a very large storage facility claim. And I'll never forget the day. We were standing in our kitchen, and I was like, just pay them off. You get to click the button. And she did it. Yeah, I will never forget that client. I will never forget that storage facility claim. I had a lot of good storage facility claims from hell as a PA.
And my story is very similar to Pate's. No, I do not have any law school debt right now. It's all paid off. When I did pay it, I was in my kitchen, had the laptop open. I was with Olivia, my wife. I was like, click this. We're about to send all this cash over and pay all this at once. And we had I bought a bottle of Dawn before we even did it. And as soon as she sent it, I ripped it out, popped the bottle. Yeah. It's one of those moments that you just remember for the rest of your life. You do, because it's a massive burden on 80% of attorneys that are out there.
I got a better story. So we sold a house that we were living in order to pay off all my student loans. And I remember very clearly, I was using my cell phone to pay the bills with this app, and I was on the shitter. And it was very relieving the moment that I was sitting on that toilet and also hitting the button to pay off that debt. So,
Man,
it was the most
Thanks for
relieving
sharing that.
bowel movement I've ever had.
yeah, it's weird because it's like I don't know. That was just something that's like always hung over. It just hangs, right? You're just like, wow.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a second mortgage, man. I mean, you got
It
to
is.
knock it off. So it's great to get it off your shoulders, no doubt.
Remington, if you knew what you knew now, would you still be an attorney?
I would. It's something. It's just something that's been, I feel like, ingrained in me since I was in elementary school, and I said I want to be an attorney for whatever reason. And I didn't know I was going to be this attorney. I was more looking towards like sports agent type stuff and everything else. But this is it,
Did you
man. This is
watch-
what I
Did
told
you
my
watch
wife.
Jerry
this
Maguire
morning,
a lot in law school?
I did.
Yeah.
Not in law school, but in the younger days. But I was like, damn, that's awesome.
What? Hold on. What was the question, Matt?
If you watched Jerry Maguire a lot during law school,
Okay.
show me the money.
Do either of you guys know the show Entourage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a episode where Ari Gold keeps calling. Is it Ari Gold's the agent for Vince? Where Ari Gold keeps waking E up, Vince's manager. He calls him at like 5 a.m. So one day, Vince wakes up. E wakes up super early in the morning, at like 4 something in the morning, and calls Ari's house. And Ari answers. He's like, "Get up, Ari. Today's blah blah blah, whatever day." And it pans out to Ari, and he's on the phone. He's reading a script on the bike in this bedroom, and he's like, "E, you're waking my wife up. If you're gonna wake me up, you got to get up 3 hours before this." And hangs up the phone. And I can remember I was like, "Whoa, that's what it takes." Ari getting up at 1 a.m., reading scripts, crushing the bike.
Exactly.
I don't think that would be a fun life.
Hey, Pate, though, and I'll end it because I know we're running out of time. But when people say, I want to go to law school, I literally say, do it because you truly want to be an attorney, not because of money and all this other stuff. Because look, there's broke, bankrupt attorneys. Okay. So not every attorney has money, but like
I know attorneys that make less than teachers. I know attorneys that
absolutely
don't think it's like a money train. Like anything you do, you can pivot and figure out and be successful at. I think I was just lucky and went to law school. I would almost say, don't listen to Remington, just go. And then you have an advanced business degree. And then one day, maybe you'll luck into a scenario like I did where you could be an attorney if you did this. And that's my story. Like I went because I was like, this is an advanced business degree. And I knew I wanted to do business and I wanted to be involved in that. And I knew it would give me a better opportunity. And that's it. I think that anytime you can better yourself, if you're going to stick with it, do it. If you're not going to stick with it, that's another thing. Like people too often, when things become very hard for an extended amount of time, give up. And I look at like people from my high school that were way smarter than me. I was like, I don't know, not top 40% or whatever in my high school. I was really into like non-school things. And, but there are people there that were incredible. And I think the only reason they haven't excelled financially or excelled greater than what they have is because they won't step outside of their common like course of life and won't step out of what's difficult. Like they might be cool with not being comfortable, but they aren't like willing to be kicked in the face for like a year for success. And when I look at like extremely successful people, particularly in our industry, like I don't care what company you go to, if you look at people that do, let's say, greater than $100 billion in revenue inside of a company, like not profit, but just that large of a company where you've grown something significant, like those people are willing to risk extreme pain for extended periods of time. And most people won't. They'll be like, I want to see my kid play soccer. Right. And that's the difference is like, there's a trade there, and neither one is right nor wrong. But when people are like initially set out to make a great investment, realize like that's what you have to see it through. Like basically you're investing in the beginning stages, and the beginning stages are hard. When Ruben can ask you like, do you want to be an attorney, and you're going to law school, like, and he talks about how hard it is, he's talking about just getting through law school. Now you have to make money. How are you going to do that? What does that look like? How long is that going to take? Are you willing to take that pain? Because if you're not, like, question, because it's difficult unless you work for Huggins Law, because I hear the salaries are big over there.
Yeah, at some point I'm just gonna have to get hired by Huggins Law, maybe.
They're large.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody's got their own definition of success, and that's how I look at things, you know. And
Right.
it is, you know, making a little bit less, but you're going to the soccer game, you know. That's
I think as long as you can afford to purchase wet wipes, you're good.
there you go.
Wet wipes.
Yeah. I mean, if you're stuck to just dry toilet paper, you need to work harder. You
Bro,
need
I'm
to-
a dry toilet paper guy.
What's wrong with you,
wet-
dude? I
Are you
feel
in a
bad
wet-
for your wife right now.
Are you a wet wipe exclusive, man?
Dude, it's either a bidet or wet wipe. All right, there's no compromise on this. All right, I got to be clean.
Wow.
Okay.
I feel like you just kind of
But they
Okay,
have
the
to be
different-
flexible. You know?
Matt's
good for
doing
the
full mitigation over there. That's
Yeah.
for
Wow.
sure.
Shout out
we
to
got to
Battle.
end this. We're going way over. We've lost half the audience already anyway. So thank you for being on, Pate. I'm about to boot you off. Stay in the wings, though. We can chat. Boop. Remington, we actually had a decent episode even without Galen here. Go figure. Go
Hey,
figure.
man, we had two great attorneys on talking shop. I love it. I love it. And like Pate said, man, we go back a long, you, me, and Pate go back a long way, years and years, and we've been through the roller coaster together. So it's always great to hear from Pate. Great, fantastic guy. Seriously.
All right. So if you guys are getting a lot out of this show, we really appreciate you watching. We could use your help. We don't make any money doing this. So if you could patronize our sponsors, the National Claims Institute has courses for everyone involved in insurance claims, from contractors, public adjusters, insurance adjusters, engineers, even attorneys. If you are in those roles and you want to get the best bang for your buck, the courses of the National Claims Institute are the way to go. If you are interested in having some consulting or want to get us involved to see what we would recommend for your claim, you can go to patreon.com/L2TB, L the number 2 TB. That stands for Listen to This Bull, in case you didn't know. You can also go to our website, listentothisbull.com, and buy a t-shirt. They're pretty cool. Or a mug, or there's some other shit on there. There's merchandise. Buy some stuff. We like it. We will see you guys next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Guys, have a good
See you guys.
day.